All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Haikyuu, Season 4, Episode 21. Getting closer to the end.
Guys, oh man. We're in the third set in the Narizaki match with Karasuno. Very tightly fighting up against the powerhouse that is this team. Shinsuke Kida was introduced in the last episode.
And he was amazing.
And stole our hearts. Oh, boy. This boy.
He's the best. I love him. I love him so much. But Narizaki's going to lose. We're pretty sure.
Yes, because they must have the Battle of the Garbage Dump.
Yep, exactly. But they did kind of absolutely stomp Karasuno in the last set. And that psychological effect is still kind of carrying over. So, yeah.
We need to reestablish the momentum. We are fighting really well here. We just got off a really fantastic block that Kageyama stopped Aran solo with, giving Rintaro a little bit of a moment of like, well, wait a minute.
What's going on here?
Kageyama is actually a little scarier than
Suki.
Glasses over there.
What's up with that?
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Said it before, I'll say it again. Haikyuu is about passion. Haikyuu is about passion. We got to see the results of that passion being shared and exchanged and channeled and built up, and also in some ways kind of competed with. The idea that it's not necessarily tearing it down, but when you compete on the level of passion, where you could very much have a skill difference, theoretically, but it's not where the point of it is that in that
I love this more than you do.
Grid of passion where they're so far ahead of their team, for instance, like the Miya twins, we can see that eventually it came out as a thing of where, because Atsumu was less skilled than Osamu at the get-go, he ended up channeling his grit and his passion even more to be able to beat his twin. Thus, to the point when they actually are in high school and they're both equally good at their respective parts with regards to the volleyball, team. One of them got chosen for the All Japan practice group thing. And that was the one that had that little bit more passion, that little bit of extra energy, that little 2% difference, or maybe even 0.2% difference. The thing that most people aren't really going to be able to separate between the two of them unless you're either a professional or you're one of the two parties involved here. And that's something that Osamu was able to realize, because it's like, oh, shoot, it didn't really come down to skill at this point. They just wanted someone a little crazier. Which is, you love volleyball a smidge more than I do.
And I love the idea that it could have very easily been something where both of them could have, gone to the camp. But, that just, for some reason, that just wasn't what ended up happening.
And the idea that one of the things that was Atsumu's greatest blessing, if you will, was his twin. The idea that Atsumu wouldn't be here with regards to this much skill and passion if his brother didn't basically have that same level of drive for volleyball at the beginning that forced them to basically do the whole two horses in a stagecoach effect where they're able to
pull 5 times farther.
It's a multiplicative effect. This is something that we saw with Kageyama and Hinata over the course of the show. That people are saying that usually when you combine players in a setup like this, especially in offense, it's an additive effect. And that was the strength of Shiratorizawa, was that they had big numbers, so they didn't need to multiply in order to get resounding results.
They wanted consistency of big numbers everywhere, and we win.
Exactly. But Kageyama and Hinata explored the idea of the multiplicative effect by going for those extreme results with less likelihood of possibility, but because of their freak quick and the combination of their unique set of skills, they gelled and did push each other beyond what they were originally capable of because they were both so passionate about volleyball. And that's kind of exciting because in this case, Kageyama got picked for the All Japan thing. Hinata did not. Now, it's very clear that Kageyama has more skill than Hinata. But it might be something that's kind of fun to bring up is that maybe Kageyama likes volleyball just as much as you, Hinata?
I don't think so.
I don't think they're bringing that up, that it has to be one way or the other. But I think you would be hard-pressed to debate which one actually loves volleyball more.
Maybe. I feel like in the case of Atsumu and Osamu, it makes sense that would be the deciding factor because they're both so hyper-competent, right? That, yeah, all things being equal, take the one that's a little bit more passionate, right? There you go. In the case of Kageyama and Hinata, Kageyama is definitely very passionate about volleyball.
Yeah, but he's also a god in terms of skill.
Right, he's a god in terms of skill. I feel like to take the Miya twins and relate it to Kageyama and Hinata, one, yes, the thing that the most helpful thing that they have is each other. But before Kageyama came along, the most helpful thing that Hinata had was the fact that he didn't have anyone to play with. Because right now, where Hinata's at, yes, his skills are not that great. You know, he has a very specific set of skills, but most of for the most part, he has those are able to be brought into the limelight because of Kageyama, right? Because Kageyama is that good. But because he wasn't able to play with anybody, he dreamed about volleyball constantly. Like, Volleyball-chan is something that he is very much yandere for. He wants nothing more than to be with
We've seen those eyes.
We've seen those eyes, right?
Hinata eyes.
There is nothing that Hinata won't do for the sake of volleyball, right?
That's true. We saw him sneak into the the whole thing.
Yes, he is a little psycho. His highest stat is indeed his passion, right? Not his ability to jump or his speed or anything like that, right? Hence, you know, he tried to sneak into the place, and they're like, this is a new one. Like, you know, like, I don't think we've ever had anyone try this before. No, it doesn't work. You can be a ball boy, you know. But that's something that's really important because for Atsumu, yes, him and his brother both definitely had the talent, right? But in order to get to that point where you're the best setter in Japan, you don't just get to that point on talent. Talent is assumed. That's a prerequisite. That's nothing special.
You have to have talent in order to compete at the top.
Right, you already have to be a freak of nature, basically.
Right, but there's a lot of freaks of nature out there that are ridiculously good at their specific thing, but there's a percentage of those that actually then put in the 110% effort into something in order to make themselves into a honed weapon of their specific skill or sport or whatever.
Like, it makes me think of like with like fantasy or sci-fi stories where you'd have like the super soldiers, but it's like, but you have to somehow do that on your own, or, you know, without actual like things that make you superhuman, you know. And that's what we have here, because they were so neck and neck constantly and competitive as only you know, brothers can be, that they
twins nonetheless.
Yeah, too. Twins especially, because I can't imagine what it would be like to be a twin, because I've had friends that were twins, and they very much had their ways that they tried to like differentiate themselves from each other and be like, hey, this is my thing, that's your thing, right? And they would butt heads a ton, right? I can't imagine what it would be like when your passion is also the same thing, right? They kind of did that in that it ended up being, you're the setter for the most part, and I'm not the setter for the most part, you know.
Well, that's the thing. They started off that way, though. And Atsumu copied Osamu, because Osamu was the one that was originally getting the setter recognition. And quickly, Atsumu was like, no, I want that. That's really cool. And then he beat him at that. And then they competed with each other back and forth, going all the way. So in some ways, because Osamu decided that setters are so cool, and Atsumu was like, no, the spikers are really cool. And they ended up switching because of the way in which they look up to each other. In some ways, you know, Osamu was Atsumu's hero. Before, you know, he was even really that good necessarily at volleyball. Now, he was pretty good from the get-go. Like, he was given that set, that little underhanded set from the pro, you know, super nationals level, you know, setter at the time there. And it was him just perfectly setting it up for him to do an awesome kill. But that is something where, you know, that guy wasn't his hero. That wasn't the one that drove him to become basically a setter necessarily.
Right.
Now,
that
he
may
did give him the
setting can be cool.
Yeah, he showed him that it can be cool, but the one that actually drove him to be competitive and have his talent applied with hard work and skill and everything was his brother. And that's just a really cool bit there, because it shows a way in which it mirrors the Nishinoya Kinoshita thing, in that you can be someone's hero or have an epic moment
in non-traditional ways
out being on the court playing there because it was your effort, energy, interaction, exchange, communication, connection with the player on the court that drove them to bring about the results and the performance that you're seeing on the court right now.
Right.
And that's important.
And also the connections. So volleyball is a game. It's about connections, right? Yep. But the connections on the court oftentimes are made because of connections off the court, right?
True.
Not necessarily just little connections, like literal connections, but also things like the connection that Kinoshita and Nishinoya have, right? So that he was like, oh yeah, no, he's freezing up here. Go forward, and then he does it. It's
awesome.
It's so good.
And bring it even to Nishinoya's grandpa, the one that, essentially raised him and basically told him to live life fearlessly by trying out new things. And if you end up ever bumping into that situation where you're scared, just ask for someone's help. So Nishinoya, by bringing up all that story stuff on the bench, you know what he was doing?
He's asking for help.
He was asking for help. But Nishinoya was so scared in the moment there that he was kind of nervously just kind of processing out loud. I relate to that so much. When I'm scared or nervous, I will start rambling. I'll just start talking. And I'll end up saying things that are usually a bit kind of a thing that would be like, oh, Caleb's usually a little bit more reserved than that. Why is he talking about that stuff? It's like, no, I'm a little bit nervous. Kinoshita notices that and is like, oh, that's a thing. Also, the coach even noticed, was like,
yeah, this is different. Is Nishinoya trying to like psych himself up or something? Like, he definitely does do that, but not usually like this.
Yeah. So I love that the episode being named Hero was not about basically these like gods of volleyball.
Oh yeah, that too.
That have all these skills, talents, and performances. Even that, from Kinoshita's perspective, he was kind of looking at the first years and being like, yeah, they kind of awakened that extra bit of passion, because I saw them come in and be like, wow, that's awesome. Tadashi, Yamaguchi, he's coming in and being like, yeah, I'm gonna find my place, and he's like, that's awesome. You guys are inspiring me, and. Yeah, we have Kageyama and Nishinoya on the team, so I'm aware of where my limits are. I can't be at that level.
I'm not a god,
right, and yet I would like to do something memorable on the court. And God, Haikyuu just knows how to balance the fact that it has way too many characters that it can ever service in one episode. So having Suga have the moment of like, no, don't worry, you'll get another moment. It's like, God, that's so beautiful, because Sugamom is the one that we've been cheering for, and he's been cheering for everyone on the sidelines, like get into shape. What is that? What is that nonsense? And yet this could be the last time he gets to play with them. Yeah. Not necessarily this game, but like this week even. Like, let's say they beat Inarizaki and going up against Nekoma. Suga might never even get to participate in the game against Nekoma.
I know.
Like, that's where he's at. And yet he's encouraging you, Kinoshita, to be like, yeah, don't worry. You'll get another shot. It's so good. This team, these players. It's like, okay. But so many other things to talk about.
So one of the things that I want to bring up, because this just really stood out to me personally, but the shot of Atsumu, and he's just setting the ball up into the air, right? Or against the wall, right? It starts out against the wall, but then he's setting it up into the air, and he's setting it high, and with to the exact same height, like a level of consistency and precision to this, where he's been doing this for a long time.
Hundreds and hundreds of times.
Like, he spends the hours of his day doing this when it's not practice time or anything, because this is just what he wants to do. There have been two moments in my life in particular where I went into this kind of mode, and it was awesome. And both of them actually were because of this guy.
Oh, don't do this to me, man. Don't do this to me.
One was because we were homeschooled, and there was a point where, because we come from a big family, where our mom was kind of like stretched thin, right? She couldn't help all of us with our schoolwork, right? And you...
Oh, I know what you're going to say now. Yeah.
She was like, hey, Caleb, can you help Jacob, go through like, his little reading booklet where it's like, got like the dotted lines and everything to show where the letters line up to, and like, and it's like, oh, there's 4 3-letter words on a page, and it's like, all right, try and sound out the...
Yeah, you were like 4 or 5
actually, really young.
Actually, let's bring this up here.
It was probably more like
about
3.
3.
Yeah.
Because, guys, this is about to get really freaky here with what happens.
But and it was like, I was supposed to do like 4 pages, so like 16 words, right? But just figure out how to, that's how it works, and and then go and do it. Yeah. And so and you didn't even really want to do it. You were kind of like, oh, okay, I gotta do this with Jacob, whatever, But you were like, okay, Jacob. All right, let's do this. And you're like, and you're looking at this, and 4 years difference, right? So when you're that young, it's like
you're like 7,
right? Yeah. So you're like, this is easy stuff, right? So we go through it, and and you're like, okay, how does it? Okay, no, it goes this way. It's pronounced, this way. Okay, cool. We go through the pages, and he's like, and it took like 3 minutes, right? And you sort of like look back over at her mom, and she's still working and helping out with one of our other siblings, and he's just like, you know what? You could probably finish this like right now, like, and it was like pretty early on in the book, but it was probably like a 30-page book or 40 pages or something like that, right? And I was like, whoa, really? And you're like, yeah. So then we did it.
I wanted to add something else that I basically said in there, because one of the things that was a trait of mine was my laziness that was started very young, and that was the idea that whenever we were told what we would be learning from the year, we would be given a stack of books. And the stack of books, in my mind, was, once I'm done with all these books, I don't have to do school for whenever.
Yeah.
So anytime I would finish something, it was not a thing of, now I can go do the next thing. It was the, sweet, now I can kick back.
Right.
And I did it. So constantly I would finish a school subject, a specific thing, like 3 months before the school year was over. So when Jacob is like, he's starting to read, I'm like, Jacob, you can just finish this
and be done.
But here's the difference. Go and say.
So we also had this thing in our family where we would get $1 back when $1 meant something. Whenever we finished a book, right? And so I did this, and I did it, and you were like, yeah, good job. And I was like, oh my god, I just read a whole book in one sitting. Like what is that? And then I got $1, and I think I got like a 3 Musketeers bar with it or something like that, right? And I was like, this is amazing. I can do this, right? I was like, and I didn't think I would be able to do that, because it's like reading a book in sitting. That's crazy, and it wasn't even much of anything. But this guy told me, like, you could probably do that, and then I did it, and I was like, whoa, I can do this. And then I just started reading like crazy. Like every time I was like, I can make money doing this. So
you abused the rule that our parents set up, which was, if you finish a school book, you get $1. So you kept asking for more school books about reading specifically.
And then just read
all of them. So, guys, this is 3. He learned how to read when he was 3, right? Tell him when you started reading Lord of the Rings.
I was 8 years old.
Yeah.
That was because we got another challenge where basically it was, as soon as you read the books, you can watch the movies, but not before.
Guys.
And
in
so it was
5 years of learning to read, he started reading The Fellowship of the Ring. That is a post-college level reading level.
So encouragement works.
Not only does encouragement work, but I think there's this expectations thing that you can set, which is, this is something that you can do, but you don't have to treat it like it's a big deal. It's not some intimidating thing. I think that one of the scary things about what Atsumu's doing here, and Aran's noticing it, is that no one's forcing him to do this.
Right.
And it's not that it's easy for him because he's just perfectly naturally skilled or anything. It's that he looked at how easy it was for his brother and the others to basically like just just got this stuff. Yeah. He's like, whoa, I'm a twin. Anything he can do, I can do.
Right.
So by not even saying anything, Osamu gave him basically I'm not even just gonna be as good as him. I'm gonna be better.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be better. Oh my god, yeah. So then he just channels that energy, that passion, into something as simple as just tossing the ball up and up and up and up and up again.
Yep.
But doing it enough times over and over and over again, this young, focusing on it, channeling that energy, volleyball is going to become a goddamn like nostalgic centerpiece for his whole life.
Right. I can imagine that every time because you don't do something like this through willpower. You do it because you like it. Yeah. Right? That somewhere in your brain, somehow you're addicted, and there was a switch that was
dopamine hit.
Right, you got that dopamine hit, and every time he pushes it up and it goes to that right perfect spot where he wanted it to go, he's like, yeah. and then he's like, all right, do it again. Do it again. And that is a wonderfully awesome place to be because, of course we would love to be in that place, right? And then the other one that happened was also with reading, but it was specifically with tabletop RPGs, where you were in a game store and someone gave you the Star Wars core rulebook or something, and we were playing it as like a way to like hang out and stuff, but core rulebook for a tabletop RPG, very complicated stuff, right? Yeah. And I can't remember how old we were.
I think you were 12 and I was 16.
Gotcha. Yeah. It was something where we were very young, right? Yep. And it was ridiculously complicated. It's like, how does this stuff work? And you were like, okay, I don't know if we should actually try playing this because you're like, this is really tough to get, right? I don't know if you could actually understand this, Jacob. I'm having trouble with it. And I was like, wait, that sounds like a challenge, right?
Because what I wasn't saying was you're not smart enough to read this. It was I'm having trouble getting it, so I'm sure you're going to have trouble getting it as well,
right?
Which is more of a thing of saying, well, we're kind of equals in some way, but I am assuming something about you. About your lack of competence because of mine. And then Jacob gets all competitive. He's like,
wait,
hell no.
Okay, all right.
Like, give it to me. And you're like, I'll check it out. And I was like, okay, yeah, go for it.
And then basically just the rest of my afternoons after that was just me reading this thing. Because it was like, ooh, yeah, this is something that my brother can't do. So if I can figure this out, it was just the coolest thing ever.
And to this day, he has more passion surrounding tabletop RPGs than I do.
Yep.
Because I was the one to introduce him to it. But I showed him that there was a cap to my passion, skill, ability with regards to this thing. And then he goes, but I don't have to have that.
And
I don't have to have that.
And to this day, even though it's like the passion that I have for D&D and tabletop RPGs and stuff has completely turned into something else, right? It's not for the same reasons or whatever that it started out as. But my brain is so like hardwired, burnt into that dopamine high. I still love it. I can't get enough of it.
Yep.
And this is not at all to say that I'm anything like Atsumu, right? But the idea that kind of stuff can happen to just people, whoever you are, wherever you are,
regardless of talent,
and regardless of what it is, right? It can be from these little connections that you have with people, right? And then suddenly something happens, and there you go.
Now, I will say, though, that this was something that was quite unique with regards to our family. Although most of us are pretty good readers in general, you probably have a little bit of a talent disposition for reading, like specifically.
And I think a lot of that was because of hanging out with you, because that 4-year age difference when you're like hanging out and like wanting to play and stuff, it rubs off. It's the older siblings pass what they know on to the younger ones, kind of a thing.
Yeah, especially if it's a good stuff there.
Right.
But yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That was really cool.
So I loved that scene of him just setting the ball to himself over and over again, because it tells so much of a story in like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So that long tangent, but yeah.
Yeah. But I loved also that once we got back to high school timeline with regards to the twins, we saw basically that they had developed a little bit of a stigma towards their specific personality differences. So they are now, I would say, not only very different people, but they are very different players. You have Osamu kind of getting a little bit down on himself because he's not playing optimally one game. Atsumu comes in with his competitive aspect there, and also maybe a little bit of frustration that his hero is kind of failing him, and going, "Yo, you useless piece of trash." The kind of nonsense that brothers would throw at each other when they're in the immature stages of adolescence, and very competitive. I mean, harshly competitive at some point.
This is hyper competitive.
Right. Yeah, because Jacob and I would get competitive about certain things, but like the harsh aspect of it was a very like adolescent kind of thing of where it's like at this point, like the main things we're competitive about right now is basically just like anime, like
debating
opinions or something.
Right, exactly.
Like that's about it.
Yeah, arguing whether the first core of SEO is a 6 or a 7. You know,
right? Dumb shit like that. But Atsumu is trying to, in some ways, do the whole thing of like, are you really a useless piece of trash? Are you going to do that?
Right, piss him off so that he'll do something. Yeah, let's get back into our rivalry.
And you see so much of how early Osamu was adapted or adopted, if you will, by Atsumu, in that Osamu was the one that used to be unlikable. Osamu was the one that used to be kind of like, these guys, why didn't you score any points, you know?
Right.
Now, Atsumu is basically imitating that behavior towards his brother here to try and, like, force him to, hey, shape up, man. And then, of course, they fight, and it's amazing. And, you know.
And I love that they have actual, like, Band-Aids and scrapes and stuff on them after the fight. Because they did fight. It wasn't just tackling him to the ground or something. Like, you know. Yeah. It continued after this.
Right. And it does Widow Atsumu could never make a mistake. Yeah. Rintaro is teleporting around, taking pictures. Yep. Oh, my God. It's amazing that they hammed this up for all it was worth. That was so good. But then, of course...
The bunk bed.
And the little conversations of like, want to play winning 11? And then they basically go back into their competitive streak there. And you can tell that one of the things that's important about brothers, specifically, is that while you can be really harshly competitive with each other and get into like fights and all this kind of stuff, that being brothers allows you an advantage in the dynamic duo kind of setup that no other dynamic duo can really replicate. Yeah. Especially if they're dedicated and passionate about the specific thing. Jacob and I have experienced this with discussing anime. Sure. There is this element, this chemistry that can come up that is just unreal compared to any other time I'm discussing anime with other like anime fans and stuff like that. It just doesn't get to that point. Right. So even though the twins are fiercely competitive with each other, the fact that they've gone to nationals now twice, and they're actually like in their second year, you know, so each year in high school they went to nationals.
They're going to have another year after this.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
These guys are actually pushing each other to be so much more than what they are.
Right. Whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Yeah. Multiplicative.
You know? And thus we see perfectly exemplified in that measure a moment where Atsumu just screams the greatest setter in all of, you know, Japan with regards to high school, you know, setters.
Yep.
And does like a 2 feet off the ground, 3 feet off the ground set, like perfectly, like right here, backwards.
The backwards thing was what got me because
twin who makes a perfect kill there.
Yeah, like that because God. The fact that he could get there fast enough, get under it, be stable under it in order to actually make a set that was worth anything. Right. That in and of itself blows me away. It's like, okay, that's a ridiculous set. But the fact that he does it backwards, like just the idea of doing a set at all backwards seems crazy to me.
And one above the shoulders too.
Right. Much less one above the shoulders and with that kind of angle and like hard precision. Like it wasn't just a random set. It was like their own freak quick perfect set. Like
it wasn't quick basically.
Like how How?
Yeah. That's the power of the dynamic duo. That's the power of the years and years and years of shared passion for this sport played out in a little 10-second little interval here of this game.
Right.
And that's something special. And I love that the episode then ends with Kageyama having the moment of, yeah, I'm glad I'm here.
Right.
Like, this is where I'm meant to be. Yep. It's like, I get to play on the opposite side of the court as a player like that.
Right.
I think that this is one of the things that is also cool to mirror a little bit of the Kageyama, maybe Oikawa dynamic.
Oh, sure.
And that is that Oikawa was in some ways the hero. I'm going to say it, but he is kind of the hero of Kageyama.
Sure.
He was the I am you but better Kageyama.
Right.
And Kageyama was the I am you but eventually way better.
Right.
And it's something that's kind of crazy to think about, in that Oikawa was trashy to Kageyama when Kageyama was growing up and coming into his own.
Yep.
Kageyama mimicked a lot of Oikawa's tendencies, personality-wise as well. But the thing was is that Oikawa was actually amazing to his team. And eventually, Kageyama has become, in some ways, that new kind of iteration of Oikawa, in that he does the perfect sets for his team. He is awkwardly trying to figure out ways to jive with his team so that he can, or gel with them so that he can, fill in the stuffs where they need it to be.
Yeah,
and then
bring the best out of them.
And then we get him, Kageyama, actually encountering someone who is even better than him in terms of being, a setter, and going, okay, now I'm going to learn from this guy here.
Yep.
I'm going to absorb what I can here. And that's a humility that he wouldn't have had in season 1 or season 2 even.
And I think the reason for that, why Atsumu is so good at the interactions with his team, is because of how much he is obsessed with not volleyball even.
Oh, yeah.
But just setting, right? He loves to just make the perfect set, right? That he loves to do that, right?
Yeah.
So with his team, it's not that he's super competitive and wants to win. Yes, he does want to win, right?
Right.
But it's also the thing of the, no, I want to set it just right so that then they can hit it just right. Oh,
yeah.
They're not. Oh, okay. All right, let me just adjust it. Oh, wait, no, I think I can, if I do it this way, I can get them to adjust. Yeah, okay, all right, yeah. When the sun hits this ridge just right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring up the thing about Atsumu in the first half of season 4, bringing up Kageyama as being goody two-shoes, and him saying that he doesn't like nice players and stuff like that. Like, it's like, you're too nice and stuff like that. We've seen the results of Atsumu's lack of nicety to his twin brother. And I interpreted that early as being a thing of where there's a little bit of tension in
antagonism
the mix there.
or something.
Yeah. But now that we've gotten this extra perspective here, that tension and antagonism has always been there.
And it's been a good thing.
And it led them to this point.
Right.
So that extra bit of tension might be something that is showing that maybe Miyatsumu is actually trying to kind of... I want to go out on a limb here, because this is something that's kind of interesting to think about. The idea of Miyatsumu being the best setter in all of Japan.
Right.
It has conflict in my mind with where Kageyama's
character progression
growth as a volleyball player should be going. Like, Kageyama should at some point, because he's just the god, of setters and stuff like that, his end should be that he's the greatest, high school setter in Japan.
Yep.
That's his goal, right? Hinata's is to be like the little giant. So his goal is in some ways a little bit more attainable, because he's kind of wanting to be what Hoshiumi is kind of exemplifying so far in nationals right now.
Right.
But if Kageyama bumps up against someone like Miyatsumu, there's an issue there in that it's like one of them has to bite it. There can only be one,
well,
right?
Eventually, Atsumu will, move out of high school. But I think
it's got another year.
And I think that might be the amount of time that Kageyama needs. Like, I don't know, but it could be. It could be.
So I want to go out on a limb and say that Kageyama and Atsumu Miya are going to have some kind of a different future than where their things are setting up right now.
Okay.
Because with the idea of bringing up the idea of a national team, like a national representative team for Japan high schoolers and stuff like that.
They don't need two setters?
They don't need two setters.
Well, they could have one just as a backup.
But imagine, if you will, that they both end up getting brought onto the team.
Yep.
And Kageyama is the starting setter, and Miyatsumu and him have to work together.
Oh, yeah.
They have that moment where it's like they're both on the court at the same time.
Yep.
And it's like they have to do kind of the Suga Kageyama switch thing. That's essentially what we've been seeing Osamu and Atsumu do. So I really feel like they're building up these two as being eventual buddies in that regard because of Kageyama's thing of I'm so glad I'm here, but also Atsumu kind of setting up the you a goody two-shoes?
Right.
It's trying to build that kind of familiarity tension to where we can be competitive with each other.
Right, because there's being competitive and then there's almost being like combatively competitive, right? And you don't want to have that if the other person isn't comfortable responding in kind.
Exactly.
Because then you just end up stomping all over them.
So true.
That's what Kageyama's issue was with his team, right?
Yep.
With
why don't you guys score points?
Right.
Which is what Osamu was doing in the beginning of his volleyball thing as a setter, too.
And it's what Atsumu was doing specifically with Osamu, right? But he was doing it with Osamu, not with the rest of his team, right? Because they're brothers, they're super competitive and all that stuff. They can take it.
They're both doing this intentionally.
Right. It becomes a positive thing because they both love it, right?
Right.
With Kageyama, the thing that he needed to learn, since he got that hard lesson of, oh, that's right, I was being the king of the court and everything, I need to step back a bit, then he kind of over-adjusted, which is what he needed to do to establish a new pattern, a new groove. But then it's but since you're now with a team of people that are hungry like you are, you can get a little bit combative with your competitiveness. Rub up against them. Iron sharpens iron, and they've gotten a lot better for it. So,
I just love the idea of the dynamic duo. This is like a set of things that Haikyuu has done over and over and over again
in pairs.
Yep, exactly. Passion, pairs, and I can't think of another word that starts with P that works with this there.
Passion again, just
more passion, exactly. But when that's brought up in pairs that potentially go across the net. I get excited. It's the way that separates, in my opinion, what makes Atsumu Miya different from Oikawa is that Oikawa had his petty pride, essentially, that he talked about with Ushijima. Atsumu Miya is in some ways only focusing that petty pride with his twin so that they can both,
and maybe
grill
a
each
little
other
bit
up to the top.
And maybe a little bit with the stands when they deign to actually make noise when he is setting.
I think that's the privilege of being, a nationals level player and their best server and setter.
Right.
So he's like, no. This is my stage.
Exactly.
Bow down.
Yep. You have no idea how much time I've spent perfecting this and how much I am obsessed with this.
Right.
Don't you dare butt in.
Yeah, it is a fun flaw for the character to have on the personality level that bleeds into their volleyball play, which is, again, why we love Haikyuu characters so much, is that their flaws are accented through their play in the sport as well, mirroring it all and blending it together to one lovely package. And then we get just tons of these players everywhere. They're all so good.
The idea that Nishinoya was at one point like a scared little kid that was scared of everything. I love that. Yeah. And I also love that when he said that, Asahi was like, Are you talking like in a past life or
Previous
something?
life.
Like that did my heart so much good because you know,
Yeah.
I think we fell in love with Haikyuu pretty much immediately when we started watching it.
Oh, I did for sure.
But the whole thing with Nishinoya and Asahi, that was the part where it was like, okay, it's not just that I like the main characters or things like that. No. I
like this team.
Yes. Yeah. Like I love just the way that this show does characters.
Yeah.
You know, so that the fact that we got that little interaction was I really appreciated it. Yeah.
But yeah, we got focus set on a lot of the characters here. We got even a little bit of tie-in with stuff with Rintaro, which was awesome. Getting to see how Suki redirects his attacks specifically to
verbal
set
and
up
volleyball
receivers. Yeah. Maybe in some ways you're starting to see, Rintaro, that you maybe misjudged Suki's capacity for being scary.
Exactly. Cold terror is a thing.
Yeah, very, very low-key kind of guy there, Rintaro. But he is he is smart. Also, I love sassy Suki kind of finally speaking up and being like, thank you for putting it exactly where I planned you would. And he's like, damn it. And they have the little electricity.
Yeah, Suki sass is just, it's excellent.
It's excellent.
Yep.
Also, Suki's little normies comment when Yamaguchi's like, what does he mean by that? And he's it's not something us normies are meant to understand. Like, I love that Suki's like, I don't care about this stuff, kind of extends to also him admitting that he's like, no, this is some like shonen protagonist bullshit.
I'm not part of that.
I don't understand that. No. I'm just a regular human being here.
That's vertically gifted, but and sometimes has a chip on my shoulder that makes me.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But more family stuff like this in general.
Yes.
I love hearing about the people that raised these boys, but also just family dynamics with the idea of like, in it being brought into the sport, like with the twins and stuff. But just, I want more of that. I love it. They did it with Shinsuke in the or Kita in the previous episode with his grandma. But God, that was so funny to see Nishinoya. Now we understand why he's in some ways kind of a perv with regards to constantly going after
his
Kyoko.
Granddad his
granddad was a player.
An absolute Chad player.
What the hell? Like, I'm almost a little bit more concerned that he was kind of just bringing home
a hooker.
Yeah, a hooker, and it wasn't really setting a great example for Nishinoya. And,
if he was, I'm sure Nishinoya wouldn't have understood that that's what was going on.
No, probably not.
So
probably not.
Yeah.
But we get a little bit more realizing of where Nishinoya came from.
Nishinoya is fairly normal, all things considered.
Yeah. Because he is the wild rebel child. Like, he was the one that, wasn't, doing well with, like the team and stuff like that, and being overly aggressive at times. And, he had a wild grandpa who was also quite wise.
Indeed.
Quite wise.
Wildsdom? No, that doesn't work. I'm sorry for subjecting your ears to that.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll end this discussion here with I want more of this, guys. This show, please.
Really? Are you sure?
Please.
That's new. I never would have suspected.
Just give it directly into my veins. Just I want it all. But I guess we have to wait, just like everyone else. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion, you have to wait a week like us. But you can check out full-length timer versions of the reaction below. And for our Patreon, any level support gets you access to our Discord, where you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. And also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
That's right. We stream Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time for each of those days. Monday's podcast, Tuesdays, One Piece dramatic manga readings, Wednesday and Friday, Caleb does gaming.
Right. I'm playing Hades right now, and I'll follow it up with Cyberpunk 2077 in December.
Yes. And then Thursdays, I do gaming, which right now is Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.